One of the most exciting things about the Alumni Network is finding out what everyone has been up to since they worked at PwC, and I'm super excited to be interviewing a bunch of really interesting former colleagues to find out what they've been up to since they left the firm. This is your PwC Alumni Network with me, Andy Woodfield. Today I'm going to be talking to Helen Leale-Green. Helen was with the firm 15 years, leaving in 2000, and is now the founder of an amazing educational charity in Zambia. I'm really looking forward to speaking to Helen, in particular because of my own work in the international development space and finding out more about what her charity does to help young kids get into education. Helen, it's great to have you with us today. Thank you for your time. I wonder if I could start by just asking you to give us a quick overview of your career today.
So I joined the firm in 1985 and worked for PwC for 15 years. I was in consultancy the whole time and worked in financial services across a number of different financial service disciplines. And since then, I left really to spend more time with my family. At the time I had three young children. They're not very young children anymore. And I also wanted to change career, and I wanted to use it as a chance to find what I wanted to do. I had an interest in education and international development, but didn't know very much about it. So I wanted to sort of head in that direction. And it gave me a little bit of time to do some volunteering for different organisations.
And where do you find yourself today?
So now today I'm the founder and CEO of an organisation called Alumni Education, which is a charity. We work in Zambia with very high achieving but very disadvantaged young people, financially disadvantaged young people. And we work with them to help them to contribute to positive social change in their country and on the continent. And we do that by helping them with education and helping them to access universities across the world, and helping them also to bring them back to their country so that they can start making the change that they want to see.
Oh, wow. So does a lot of that work happen in the UK as well as in Zambia?
No, it all happens in Zambia. The only thing that we do in the UK really is fundraising and marketing and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I do that work here, but I also work directly with the students. So I have them 3 or 4 times a week in lectures and teach them. And so we have our own residential site, and they're with us for about a year on site, and then they go off and do internships for another 6 months. So during the year that they're with us, we have quite a strong academic program, but they also do volunteering and project work during that time.
Oh, amazing. I mean, I have to ask you more about that work, because I don't know if you know, but I lead our work with the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, and have worked in the international development space for
I did notice
about
that.
15 years, might be less, might be more. I can never really remember. As well as obviously being the sponsor for the Alumni Network. Do you get any UK government funding for your programs?
We don't. In a way, it's been a blessing recently because they've cut the funding. So we would have been in a really difficult position, I think, had we had it. The main reason that I haven't applied for government funding, because there are opportunities for funding for us, but mainly it's because they really want large numbers of students, and we don't have large numbers of students or beneficiaries. We work with our students who then go on and make the impact that we want to see. And I don't think that really fits into their mould so much. And so I've resisted it to date. It's a lot of work as well.
Yeah, totally. So we run the Girls Education Fund, which obviously is focused on girls' education on behalf of the UK government. And that's obviously very specific around educating girls, women and girls. But it's very it's amazing work, isn't it? Tell me how you got into creating your charity.
when I left PwC, I volunteered for a number of different educational organisations, and one of them I became a trustee and I worked there virtually full time as a volunteer as well. And we selected students from the developing world and brought them over to the UK to study for the International Baccalaureate. And my role was helping them to find university places with full scholarships. And one of my students, a Zambian, said he thought I could make more impact in Zambia and invited me to Zambia, and together we set up our moon. He put me in touch with other NGOs out there in schools, and we started a program. So that's really how it got started.
That gives me goosebumps to hear that you followed that path. It's amazing, and the impact you can have. I mean, I still, for me, one of my proudest pieces of work was getting kids into education in Pakistan. We set up an NGO in Pakistan. It was another sort of government-funded program. We had about 12 months to set up this NGO and get 20,000 kids into a quality education. I told our client that it was impossible and it was a ridiculous idea. But all of the team at PwC kept asking me if we could do it, and eventually I gave in and we did it on the basis that it was an experiment. That was it possible to do that in that time frame, and to have a standalone NGO created. We managed to do it. It was amazing, and it was one of the best things that I was ever involved in, to be honest.
Oh no, that is good. I think the other thing is that Justin, the student that invited me over to Zambia, he was off studying on a full scholarship at UBC in Canada. And when he finished, he came back and he now runs everything in Zambia. So it's come full cycle, which is really nice.
Oh, that's amazing. So we've had a kind of odd couple of years. What have been the main sort of challenges that you've had over this last year?
Well, in a way, we've been lucky because we're quite small. The Zambian government said we could stay open. We're in a rural area, and they felt that our students were probably safer with us in a rural area than going back to their compounds. At that point, it was very difficult to know what the impact of COVID would be, and we all expected Africa to be worse hit than we were, but in fact, it's been the opposite. So in a way, we were lucky. We've stayed open. The students have all been able to complete their program, and they've all got into universities. So that was good. But the economic impact in Zambia has been really harsh. And so that's not been so good for their families and things like that. For us, it's really been me not being able to travel, and I'm still itching to travel. Zambia's on the red list. I don't know when I'm going to get there next. And delivering all my programs online, it's not the way that I would choose to do things, but it's been possible. I think I miss out on really getting to know the students as well as I might do. I think that's very important because I represent the students to the universities that they're applying to, and I need to be able to represent them in the best possible way. And I feel we've all done our best, but it's just nicer to do it face to face. It's much more human.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think it's difficult when you're working in more of a developing country context to be able to do it remotely, because nothing's really the same as being there. I think, there's so many. I remember when I've run sort of programs in Democratic Republic of Congo for years, and I ran a big police reform program there for 7 years. And I remember when I took over the program, I had the most amazing briefing, and I'd read all my papers, and I was so well briefed, sat in London. And then when I arrived in Kinshasa, everything changed. It's like all that stuff was all still kind of relevant.
Yeah.
But everything was different. As soon as I hit the ground, it's like, oh my God, now I get it. Like this is just difficult for different reasons.
Yeah. I think until I visited Zambia as well, and I stayed with Justin's family, who, they live in very poor circumstances, and until I stayed with them, I didn't really understand the practicalities of how they have to live every day. And I think that sort of reinforced for me why I want to do what I do.
And I think it's so important to have that experience of being there, and then to think about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Because I always see so many people getting off the plane with their mouths moving, already deciding what's going to happen, and not just soaking in and understanding what the lived experience of people in the country is. When you reflect on your time at PwC, and you were with PwC a while, are there any specific sort of skills or experiences that you count on now, or you've learned from PwC that stay with you in your role today?
I think the most important skill I learned was client management and relationship building, the whole networking thing. It was something that before I went to PwC, I wouldn't have had a clue about how to go about it. And it's something that's so important. I have relationships with funders and donors. I have relationships so on a sort of corporate level, and then on an individual level. I have relationships with universities, and also companies that offer internship opportunities for our students. And I think just knowing sort of how important it is to keep those relationships going and how to manage those, that's probably the biggest one. And then also just project management skills, and just setting up a project from the beginning and knowing how to do it professionally rather than just going into it blindly. I think that really helped us to hit the ground running, even though we didn't have very much money to get started with.
I think I sometimes summarize that as the kind of the making it happen skills, like
yes,
because you have to.
Yes, and riding the storm skills as well.
Yeah, no, I mean they're all essential. So what does the future look like for the organization and for you in your role?
Well, so the main thing that we're trying to do at the moment is we have our site, which we've only had for 2 years, and we still have some buildings to construct. One in particular is our learning forum, which will hold most of our classrooms and computer lab, and which we can then make available to our local community as well as just our Moons students. So I'm really keen to get started on that. And I think it is then that opening out what we do for many more people, even if it's not the whole program, but just parts of it. So we do coding with our students, for instance. There's no reason why some of the local kids can't come and have some coding classes with us.
Yeah.
And so it's that sort of thing that I'm really keen to do.
So how many students would you have sort of through a year?
We only take 6 at the moment, and we're trying to increase that to 12. So it's a very small group of students. I don't expect that group of students to become much larger.
Yeah.
We also impact other people. So most of the people that work with us are people that didn't have jobs before, and so we give them shelter, food, and we also provide an education for their children. So we have a tutor for their children. So whether they're in school or out of school, they get extra help from us. So we try and impact a larger community than just our few students.
Yeah, and you said they're all going to university.
All are off to university, yes.
That's amazing, isn't it? So you have
and some amazing universities as well.
Yeah. That everything that you're doing is having an impact, not just, like you say, not just for the students themselves, but for everyone who's working there. I think that's often one of the challenges of this kind of work, that often people who are funding it want, as soon as they know it works, they want to scale it up really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy to scale something, and sometimes it doesn't really want to be scaled. It might want to be replicated and copied somewhere else. But to do it with the care and attention, I think it sounds like you've applied to it.
Yeah.
You kind of need, it's kind of a precious thing, isn't it?
Yes. And the thing is, although it's only 6 at a time, we've now seen 29 go through our program. I'm in touch with all of those very regularly, and we help them find internship opportunities. I make sure that they're okay at university. We'd have to have a lot more staff if we increased a lot in size. But one of the things that makes me feel content that it's relatively small, although I would like to double the size, but not get huge, is that we're part of an organisation called the Harley Access Network. And that works, it's 42 organisations in 21 different African countries, all with a common goal of helping young people access education. And so while we might be small, within the whole Harley Access Network, we're making a huge impact, and we can put our students together with other students from that group. And so I feel that together, our students can really make a big impact.
And presumably across that network, you're sharing sort of knowledge and experience, which is making the whole network better.
Absolutely, yes.
It sounds pretty cool to me. I'd be very proud of that if I was involved in that. Just thinking about folks that might be watching us, there's about, and I'm not imagining they'll all be watching this, but there are over 70,000 PwC UK alumni. If you had a message for them, what would it be?
My message is that the pandemic has made us very introspective, and while that's fully understandable, and there are lots of things to sort out at home, I think it's really important that we don't forget those from the poorest countries and those that really need support, continue to need our support. So I think that would really be my main message.
I think it's incredibly important. I totally agree with you. Britain's role in the world is one that has a huge amount of responsibility attached to it, and I think it's very easy to become introspective. It's very easy to only think about ourselves, and it's like you say, it's important and understandable, but we also have a huge responsibility because of who we are and the legacy and what we've done in the past.
I feel that very, very strongly. And when you see how people are suffering and the challenges that they face, then we really can't forget them and leave them behind.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Is there anything that we should be doing, do you think, as an alumni network that would help you? One of
the lovely things is that our incoming chair is currently works for PwC. So he works in investment management, and so his name is Rich Bowen. He said I can give him a shout out. So he's our incoming chair. He's been working with me for about 18 months, and he's already a trustee, but he's going to be taking on the chairship role. He's a young guy, and I felt very strongly that we're a young person's charity, and it should be chaired by not quite so young person, but relatively young. So that's one way that you're already helping. And the other way that you're already helping is that we do try and get our students internships in either both the countries that they're studying in and in Zambia. And PwC in Zambia has been very helpful with us in providing internships for our students, both as soon as they finish our program before they go to university, and also ones that are returning during their summer holidays. So I guess if there's more things that you could be doing, it would be having, maybe other people who would like to volunteer in some way to help us, or who are involved in companies that would like to take some of our students as interns, either, as I said, either in Zambia or in other countries around the world.
It's amazing. I mean, I'm always amazed at stuff that we're already doing. And it's a great inspiration to do more of the same, I think. So we will spray this message around, and hopefully there'll be lots of other people that want to get engaged. I had a final question, which was really just to try to understand a bit more about you and what drives you and your passions, really. And what it's not always an easy question to answer, I think, but if you're able to articulate some sort of core passions that have always been there in you, and maybe helped guide you and navigate you through your choices in your career and ultimately to where you are today?
Well, I think the first one is learning. So I'm really passionate about learning, and I think that that being at PwC really impacted me in that way. I think I'd taken education for granted up until I left university. I just thought, and then I thought well, yes, I'd need to take my professional exams and then it would stop. And being in an organisation that's constantly learning, constantly changing was really inspiring to me. And I think I've held on to that. And that's one of the things that inspires me to keep going and changing things at our Moon, so that it's not always standing still, and we do learn from mistakes and challenges that we have. And so that's on the learning side, and obviously education is part of that, which is why I'm in education charity. But I think the other thing is equity, and I feel very strongly that it just isn't fair that just because of where you're born says what your life chances are in terms of, and then it comes back to education really. I feel that if I can do something to improve the life chances of some people and make it more equitable, then I'll have done something good.
No, that's amazing. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, and very interesting to hear about how you got to the work that you're doing today.
Thank you.
And I mean, I think I hope you're immensely proud of the impact you're having, because it sounds absolutely fantastic. And thanks for taking the time to share that story with our network. I really appreciate it.
It's very much my pleasure, and I've enjoyed talking to you as well. I feel that we have a lot in common, and it would be good to have another subsequent meeting and find out a bit more about what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we can definitely make that happen.
Yeah, that would be great.